So welcome, Kim. Kim, take it over from here, please.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Thank you, Sadiq, for inviting me to do this webinar, and Dave, and thank you for the nice introduction. My name is Kim Scofield. I'm originally from Canada, but Dave is right. I spend a lot of time in all kinds of countries around the world, and I've done, excuse me, cybersecurity for many years. And I do a lot of cybersecurity and how it relates to governance and AI ethics and how we're going across borders and keeping everything legal and trying to outsmart the bad guys, of course. So what I brought today, we'll see if it's exactly what you're looking for. I've got a couple of different presentation options. I wasn't sure about the exact audience, but my basic experience is in bringing businesses into the world of compliance and governance and optimizing their systems. So showing them that you can operate better, more efficiently when you're secure than when you're not. This isn't something that's supposed to kind of make things worse for you. It's supposed to make them better. So we talk about concepts that you're probably all familiar with, which would be things like zero trust, which doesn't mean we don't trust our people. Of course, it means computers don't know how to trust. They have to verify everything. So I will start with the one presentation I bought, which is a little more for regular people, and we'll kind of zip through it quick, but it shows you some basic concepts. And then I've got one on zero trust and some actual cybersecurity tools and things that we can use. So I'm going to start with this one and we'll go through it. If you have any questions, just put them in the chat or put up your hand. Dave always grabs those people for me because I don't use. All right, let me see. Oh, it's a bit slow. Come on. All right, so this is a presentation that I made actually for Dave last year, and then I updated it. So this one talks about basic cyber online security that people just sometimes don't think about. So you can stop me if you have questions and we'll just kind of go through it. What we started with was, of course, the disclaimer that says I can't actually give you legal and investment advice. What this one talks about is Wi-Fi, scams, smart devices, and the tools and apps that we tend to use a lot. So this is aimed at the people who would be coming into the offices. First of all, we start with the router and the admin password, the account name, the password, because so many businesses, small businesses, don't go in and change their router's admin password. They don't change the account name and they don't make guest accounts. And those are so very important because, as we know, you're only as strong as your weakest link. So somebody coming into your office and says, hey, can I use the Wi-Fi? And you just give them your Wi-Fi. Anything that's going through their phone that is really bad or malicious is going to quite easily transfer to your business. So we also want to look at sharing security and location. So we have to be careful when we're talking anything we're talking to online. Of course, we are sharing our security and our location. If we start to share routers, admin, passwords from home, from business, if you're working from home, you should have a different account for work than you have for home, because all of a sudden people on your home network are now sharing the security of that router, and they're also sharing your location. They're sharing all kinds of things. So the next one is the VPNs, browsers, and extensions. So everybody should have a VPN. That's just a given in today's climate. Browsers we have to be careful of. There's different browsers. You can, from Chrome, of course, to Firefox, to all kinds of options, to DuckDuckGo, which is one that's a little more safe and secure, but newer, so it's not going to be quite as convenient. VPNs, not always convenient because you have to sometimes adjust them, but still very necessary. And we want to be careful of extensions. There are extensions that are really good for security, and I've got a couple of them on the screen. Privacy Badger is from the Electronic Frontier Foundation. That's the logo in the bottom there, the EFF. That's a really good secure browser extension, and it helps with the mouse overs. So when you're scrolling Facebook and you think you haven't clicked on anything, but you have just by scrolling past it and mousing over it, Privacy Badger will help you with that. There's a DuckDuckGo, which is getting better by leaps and bounds because it's much newer than the big browsers that we use. But it has its ups and downs. It does have a password manager now. So DuckDuckGo is a good option. The ALJ, the Algorithmic Justice League, is a really good place to go to just find out what's going on in the world of security. And I can share that link as well. So the Electronic Frontier Foundation and the Algorithmic Justice League are two very good places to keep up with the kind of backroom things that are happening a lot of times that don't hit LinkedIn maybe. Privacy Badger will help you with the mouse overs. DuckDuckGo, you've got the browser, but they've also got a browser extension that stops a whole lot of ads. So it's got an ad blocking extension that you can put onto Chrome, which is very useful. Okay, so then the next thing that we always talk to people about, and this is because we're working from home, we're working from the office. I have strict policies. This kind of stuff should not happen at an office. You shouldn't be shopping while you're at work, unless you're completely on your own network and you're not using work Wi-Fi. So we have to be careful when we're online clicking and online shopping, because not everything is real when we're out there, of course. We have to be careful with our smart devices because smart devices are just like walkie-talkies back and forth. So if you've got a smart fridge, it's listening. That's just a thing. Smart printers, your smartwatch, of course, is transmitting a whole lot of data back and forth. So make sure you're okay with whatever data is going back and forth, and make sure you're okay with who can access that data. If it's transmitting your heartbeat and your sleep patterns and things like that, just make sure you're okay with who can access that, because you have to really check into it. Sometimes it's insurance companies, doctors, and a lot of times they just, it can be that your data is getting sold too. So you have to really check them. Be careful with your phone because, of course, every time we've got our phones on, we know that things are being tracked and listened to, especially if you use Siri. And then there's, of course, the video cameras. So we have to be very aware of our environment when we're doing cybersecurity and when we want to be secure. And come on, little button, I pressed it. There we go. So the last one in this one, after you've gone through and checked that you're shopping from only legitimate places that have your credit card, you're checking your smart devices and you know what kind of information you're giving them, whether or not they're tracking your location, whether or not you're okay with that. Then we look at the phishing and all the other scams that happen, and they all interlock with online clicking as we're scrolling, online shopping. Smart devices send us ads. So you're scrolling through Facebook and you are talking about something, or you're going someplace, you're in a department store, you're walking around, all of a sudden you start to see ads that are very relevant to who you are and where you are. Be careful the ones you click on, and make sure you're okay with the fact that they're tracking you. You can turn off Bluetooth. That's always a good thing. And if you're not using your Wi-Fi, I turn it off, because that's how they're geo-positioning you. And of course, it doesn't stop everything, but it stops a lot. So be very aware of phishing and other scams. Make sure that you are going to a website, not clicking on a website link that you find somewhere. The next one that we always talk to people about, because again, we're working from home, and even in our jobs, we're using our own devices a lot of times. Going to an event, taking pictures on our phone, transmitting those pictures to work. Be very careful with photos and videos. Photos always have location data in them. You can turn all of that off, but an industrious person is still going to find it. So you have to be really careful with photos and videos, and be careful when you're transmitting them. If you took them for work, we want to make sure that we scan them before you send them to one of your servers at work. Be careful what you post for photos and videos. Personal pictures, things that tell criminals about your life, your pets, your school, your kids, your job, something that says, hey, I got a new job, or different pets you've got, or birthdays, or siblings. This is just all so easy to scrape when criminals want to do it. Be careful about things like vacations, schools, hobbies. You're telling criminals when you're home, when you're not home, what kind of money you have, depending on where you live, where you go on vacation, where you send your kids to school, maybe. So we always have to be careful and realize there's always somebody. That information can be useful to people. Then the next slide talks about public Wi-Fi. So Again, this is for regular people and for work. If you're at work and you go to the coffee shop, there are open networks. Don't ever use open networks, not ever. So if you go to Starbucks and you can just sign into Starbucks, don't ever use that. Number one, you don't even know if it's Starbucks. Two, it's just really easy to get your stuff. You want password protected networks, which some coffee shops do have. Bit better, still not great, but a bit better. There can be criminals sitting at the next table. So if you're sitting in Starbucks or other coffee shop and you're not using Bluetooth, turn it off. If you're not using Wi-Fi, turn it off and turn on your VPN. And that will help. And then we've already done that slide. And that's pretty much that particular one. And that's more for the people in the offices. And we try and educate them on why we nag them about certain things, why we don't want you to bring your phone, your personal phone to work and plug it in to your work computer to charge it. Why we don't want you to take your work laptop home and use it on your regular router if you don't have a separate account on your router for work. Why we don't want you to use Alexa or Siri when you're working in the same room, because it's always listening. So there's a lot of things. Now, does anybody have any questions? That's more of a user level. And then I have one that has a little more about zero trust. No questions? Okay.
So we have one or
I'm
two
going
more
to
participants who have joined us. We have Shafiq and Farhan. Sorry, Faraz. Faraz. Can you guys introduce yourself?
Faraz Khan.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Hello, Shafiq Punjani. I run a real estate company. Found the information quite interesting so far.
Good.
Nice to meet you all.
Oh, very nice to meet you. Good. I'm glad. It's always good to understand the point of view of the people that are walking into our offices, the people that are working for us from home, and the things that we need to make sure they're doing at home. And we need to model that by doing it in the office. We need to make sure our routers have guest passwords, that the office router has, you've changed the admin password, the account name, the account password, all of those things. Okay, so I have one here that I will share my screen again. And this one is about, this is a document that I made, and I can give it to Sadiq after. It's about zero trust. So we hear a lot about zero trust, LinkedIn, everywhere. And this is one of the document that I made, and I made it into a movie as well, so that people can just zip through the slides. So in this one, zero trust to me is one of the fundamental things that we have to start every security conversation with. It's not about trusting people, it's about trusting machines. You don't trust machines. Machines don't trust us. We verify everything. We check everything. We double check it. So zero trust is about keeping access as contained as possible, giving people access only to what they need and not to things they don't need or rarely need. And then it's about segmenting your system so that if something goes wrong in one part of your system and somebody hits an alarm bell, that part shuts itself down, but the rest of your system just keeps going. So you don't have to shut down an entire business. You can isolate, shut it down, clean it up, and get it back up and running. But only one section, or if you're lucky, a couple of computers have to go down or a couple of servers, but not everything, because whatever got into the system can't get at everything. Okay, so this, I put 2 pages on it once. I'm not sure if that was a good idea. Hold on, I'm going to change it to 1 page. It's probably easier. Okay, so it just says, imagine getting a call in the middle of the night that spikes your adrenaline because your company's online systems have been breached. What happens next? That's the question we all need to know. And out of this, what I hope people understand is why that business continuity plan is so important and legal in most countries. In excuse me, places like Australia, it is illegal and becoming illegal across the whole country not to have one, because so much can happen if you don't. A continuity plan just means what happens next. Who do you call? Who do you call if the person you're supposed to call doesn't answer the phone? What do you do next? So that's what happens next. And this is where we talk about zero trust. What happens is you have a plan, you have a system, and you know what to do. So trust is a human concept. I trust Sadiq, I trust Dave. We trust people after we meet them. Computers don't trust. They don't know who you are. Computers verify. And this is what we really have to drill into people. Not giving someone a password doesn't have anything to do with whether or not you trust them. It has to do with whether or not they need it. And if they don't, then it's just, they don't have it. That way a criminal can't get in and use it. So computers verify, of course, through the confirmation of triggers. And one of those triggers is a password. You trigger access to something in a computer. Computers can't actually tell if you are you or you're Bob or Alice or Clifford the big red dog. And the students I know that are here will recognize Bob and Alice. We've all gone through the Bob and Alice scenarios. So the computer doesn't trust you. It trusts that verification trigger that it receives. A global admin password will trigger access to pretty much everything. And so many companies we go into have just a cornucopia of global admin passwords, and they don't understand it, why they shouldn't. It just makes life easier. Nobody has to go and look for a password. This is why you shouldn't do that. Guest passwords trigger access, we hope, to very little. And then you get everything in the middle. So to the computer, your password that will be used, it can be used for malicious intent, honest hard work at home, maybe on the weekends. It can be used for malware or ransomware or accidental access. Perhaps your cat walking across the keyboard. All these things look the same. And the cat's password attempt might fail, but a pet randomly clicking on a malicious link is very real. And I have had my dog send letters to my lawyer. So he just jumped up and then, oh, okay, that wasn't the wording I wanted to use, but it was sent. So zero trust is about simplifying. If we simplify the list of who has access to what, and we make it a list of who needs access to what, then all of that damage from malice or carelessness or malware, ransomware, accidents, it will all have limited reach, because those things will happen, but they will have limited reach and they will cause as little damage as possible. So zero trust isn't a strategy, it's not a product, and it's not a service. It's a culture. Creating this strategy, it might look daunting, but it's really not. You just take that first step and you start to look at, make a map, who has access to what, and we start talking to people. What do you actually access? How often do you actually access? And you just do it one step at a time. So this one, when you implement zero trust, you do come across resistant to change because you are going to change who has access to passwords. You can get hurt feelings or indignation. And it does take time, which is budget and money. So you have to make sure you make good use of it. But zero trust cultures designs password access based on need, not, you can tell I was doing this for the C-suite, not ego, not decades old SOPs. We don't, even the CEO of a company, the chair of the board, if it's a password that's not used, they don't need it. Those passwords are in the hands of very good people and you can get them when you need them. So zero trust is about much, much more than passwords. And we just have to kind of get past all of the old school things that stop us from doing it, especially the one that says it won't happen to me and I'm too busy to be careful. Because as I'll show you in the next one, the next set of slides, it can and probably will happen to you. So I always think we should lock down our technology with the same care we lock down our homes and offices, because people can destroy our lives just as easily through technology. So that is, that's the end of that one. So that was the presentation. That's on LinkedIn, and I can give it to Sadiq if you like. So does anybody have any questions about zero trust or what it is or why we really push for it? No questions today. Wow. Either I'm really good or people are shy. Okay, so zero trust is important just for a couple of reasons. Number one, criminals love access, low-level access. That's what we call BEC, business email compromise, CEO fraud, which doesn't mean fraudulent CEOs. It means you get in and pretend to be the CEO. All of these things you hear on the news about this invoice got paid and it wasn't supposed to be paid. Somebody sent an email and wanted to change a bank account number. It all starts with zero trust because criminals will take the lowest level access possible. All they need to do is get in, And as soon as they're in the lowest level email box, even if it's a temporary employee, it doesn't matter. They just send emails. And if they send an email to somebody and put a malicious link in it, looks pretty trustworthy. All I have to do is click on that link and you have a higher rank, a higher access, and it just goes through everything that you can access. So we're trying to contain where things can go.
So Kim, I have a question. What kind of companies or what size of companies normally would implement such things? Is it just large multinationals? Is it or small, even small businesses?
When we made up these slides and packages and things, everybody should do this. So everybody from the solopreneur to a small business, to medium business, to enterprise level and international corporations, everybody needs to do this. If you're a small business or you have 1 or 2 employees or you're there by yourself, you still need to look at a VPN. You need to look at understanding which platforms you have, because we all have far too many subscriptions these days. You need a list of all of those subscriptions, what you use to access them, which email you use to access them, what the passwords are. And then you need to rotate and change those passwords at least every 6 months. So we need to start cutting off access to things we don't need. We need to keep all the passwords, and everybody, right down to a solopreneur, a student, anybody needs to do that, because it's not about you. It's about who they can access through you. That's what criminals want. And they'll take what they can get. They'll take anything they can get. They just buy these programs, put it into the computer and press go. They buy a mailing list, they buy a program. They don't even have to be smart. These aren't techies, most of them. They buy one, they buy the other, they stick them in and they press go. When they're all done and they get the money back, usually they've bought it from something like Black Cat or whatever they're calling themselves these days. And that's just an affiliate program. So Black Cat gets money. That's the one that took down Colonial Pipeline, a bunch of others. They get their money and then they pay the guy who, or the girl, whoever bought that package from them. So these are easy to do and easy to get. And they're just harvesting information. They'll take everything. So students, families, small businesses, really, really important. And you'll see why when I do the next set of slides, why it's really, really important. As security got higher on bigger businesses, after Colonial Pipeline and a couple of other ones like that, JBL Meats, businesses started to pay attention a little bit, because this was getting bad publicity. When the big businesses start to clamp down, criminals like that are buying their little affiliate programs, they're just going for smaller businesses, which means smaller businesses are a bigger target now. So it's very, very important. I don't know if anybody here read about MoveIt last year, like when MoveIt was compromised. That was the payment processor for, gosh, it took down what, 200 different companies, Air Canada and a whole bunch in the UK. And they're just they were a payment processor underneath an accounting company, kind of like not Stripe. It wasn't Stripe, but if on top of it, you would have something like Stripe. And then they had contracts with just worldwide huge companies, corporations. There was a problem way down here in the first vendor, the first payment processor, and it went through everything. So criminals want the lowest access. They'll take what they can get, and then they'll take down the big guys. Okay, so I have one more that has a little bit of information in it that I thought people might find interesting. And then, hold on, I have to just change the Canva thing. It's taking a minute. So did that answer your question, Sadiq? I'm just waiting for Canva to kind of do its thing here, because it's...
Oh, yes, absolutely. So it's very insightful, and it's important to know these things as well, that an individual as well as a small to large business needs these kind of measures. So whether the cyber criminals will always go to the lowest end and then work themselves up. So everyone has a responsibility to keep everyone secure.
Mhm. Who is
I'm
using
just...
this zero trust product, Kim, or who typically
Sorry?
uses it right now?
Well, zero trust is it's a way of doing things. So if you want to increase the security in your companies, say, then you're going to adopt a zero trust culture, which means you're going to do things from a zero trust perspective. So it's not a product or a service or anything. It's a way of doing business. So we're going to go into, if you call us in to do the consulting and we're creating a zero trust culture, we're going to start with looking at all the infrastructure and what everybody actually does in a day. What do they actually access in a day? How often do they access different things? So we want to know not what their job description is, but what their real job description is. We want to talk to them about what they actually do in a day, how many times they access things in a week, and we can get that information of how many times you would access certain platforms, whether it's Microsoft, Dropbox, Azure, HubSpot, or different places on these platforms. And when we compile this data, then we start to look at who actually needs a password to maybe to an admin password for Microsoft. Who actually needs that? You might have given it to 10 people and maybe only 2 of them have ever been in the back room, because that happens a lot. People, they like to know they can, but they've never gone in there. Doesn't mean they can't go in there. It just means they have to go and get a temporary password, or they have to go sit in somebody's office and they can sign them into the back room and see what they need to see. So we want to cut that down. That way, if somebody gets into Microsoft, starts going through everything, if you don't have an admin password, they can't break into the back room of Microsoft through you. And that's huge. I finally got it to work. Sorry. Thank you guys for being patient. The fires here are just nasty and messing up the internet. Okay, so does that kind of make sense, Dave? It's a way of doing
Of
so.
course.
It means sometimes we do
culture.
change. Yes, and we do change out one type of technology for another sometimes because we want to tighten it up as well. Some technologies are not as secure as others. Sometimes you can take 3 or 4 technologies and put them together with 2. And that's better. You've traded 4 for 2, and now everything is more secure. And then we start with the access. And it works. It's really wonderful when you're using it. Okay, I'm going to share this last one, and then we can see if there are more questions. Okay, so this one is a little more for business, and there's, depending on the interest level in the room, Sadiq, we can do, another one, we can do whatever you like, where I can bring things that are very targeted to what people are interested in.
Yeah,
So
sure thing.
this one's just an overview of things that I go over in cybersecurity for business. So we talk about security consulting. People don't know what security consulting is, why they would want to pay for it, but it's very important. That's how you get all the information that I'm talking to you about. And it needs to be an outside, so a security consulting needs to be done by an outside company, an outside advisor, because you just need somebody with that complete overview. Somebody's got nothing to win, nothing to lose, and they come in with no preconceived notions. I'm not there to take passwords away or give passwords out. I don't have any opinions of the people there. So we'll talk about security consulting, secure cloud storage and secure backup, which I know one of the nice gentlemen was talking about, security education, and security tools. And a lot of these are actually necessary today with the laws that we've got. So why do we need cybersecurity? Why would you even care? Well, we need to protect our data, our finances, our bank accounts, our clients, our employees, and our business reputation. Because as soon as you get breached, either you don't tell people and that takes down your reputation, you don't tell them soon enough, you don't get back up and going, so they have no services from you, or they just don't trust you. Now, so there's those, then there's the legal requirements that, especially if you're going across borders, you have to be very careful of. You need to have security going across borders. And then there's insurance and cyber insurance compliance. So if you have cyber insurance, I've got an extra mark at the end there. If you have cyber insurance, you need to make sure that you've complied with all of the terms, just like for your regular insurance. If I have insurance out here in the north and a house insurance and I go away for a week, the terms of my insurance say someone has to check my house every day so the pipes don't freeze. Cyber insurance is the same. And you need to know, and for your insurance, sometimes there's also requirements in there. So some of the realities of our digital world is that 84% of claims in the last studies that were done just don't get paid out because people have insurance, but they didn't check to see what made it valid and active. Many businesses, most businesses, will get hit twice. If you are a small business, especially small businesses, you will get hit once. You will shut your doors for a week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever it is you need to do, and then you'll get back up and running and you'll be hit again because the criminals left a hook in your system, knowing that when you came back, you're going to be tired, you're going to be just exhausted, you're going to be nervous, you're going to be scared, and you probably didn't change anything. And then they're just going to do it again. 60% of small businesses go out of business in 6 months. It's just a hard thing to recover from, even if they don't get hit twice. It can take up to 2 months just to understand the full scope of a breach if you don't have anybody working with you, if you didn't create that continuity plan, if you didn't create zero trust so that you can follow the thread right through and you go, that's where the thing came in. And we now can follow back and we know how to get it back out, how to get back out. Secure cloud storage. I didn't do all of them. So I did just a few of them. So secure cloud storage is really important. And I know somebody was talking about it. I apologize for the spelling mistakes there. We need we need different layers of backup. So you need the backup that's on your machines. Then you always need a hard backup, a hard drive of some kind, 1 or 2 of them, whatever you like. And then you need, I always go for at least 2, and I go for 2 in the cloud. So put your data in 2 places in the cloud. And if you can, put it in independent places. I don't count iCloud Drive as a backup storage. It's storage, but to me, it's not a secure backup storage because it can be compromised because it's part of my office system. So the secure cloud storage that Sadiq can provide through me is you can store your data in Canada, which is very important for many, many different service providers. If sometimes doctors, lawyers, schools, you can store it in Canada. Or you have a choice of, there's 9, 10, 12 other countries, they're adding more. You can save 74% over what you're paying for Amazon if you do any kind of downloading or streaming, because there are no fees. And it is compliant with everything from GDPR to HIPAA and more. Ransomware and compliance protection is all part of the secure cloud storage and secure backup. When you use this secure cloud storage, we make immutable backups for you. Now, immutable backups are good for lawyers, doctors, companies, because you can't change them. Immutable just means we can't change them. I can't change them. Nobody can change them. You also can't delete them. So you can't change them and you can't delete them until the time period expires, and then you can do what you like with them. But if you need legal versions of your information, they're there. And if you have a ransomware backup, then you can get them opened up. And you can also back up Microsoft, because if something goes wrong with Microsoft, or you get something, Microsoft gets infected, things like HubSpot, Salesforce, Microsoft are very hard to just back up, and we can do that for you. So that's, I think that's about it in that one. If you have any questions, do you want to talk a bit about what the consulting maybe does, Sadiq, like what we would actually come in and do?
Yeah, sure. You can speak about that. But before we continue, I just want to give a shout out to 1 or 2 of our participants whom I may have left out. We have Rara. If you can just please unmute yourself and say hello to everyone and introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you so much, Sadiq. I appreciate your invitation, and the information here today was amazing. I would love to see the recording. I think I missed 12 minutes of it, but anyway, I know it was value packed. Thank you for inviting me here today.
My pleasure. I think we have Farhood, but I maybe he or she may have left by now. Have I missed anyone else who has not introduced themselves? If you can please unmute yourself and say hello.
No?
Okay, I guess we have everyone. Please continue, Kim. Okay.
So if anybody has any questions, they can ask me. Basically, what we would do if we came into your office and brought a cybersecurity consulting package. So we would come in. What we do is we sit down with you. We have a couple of meetings. In the first one, we want to get an idea of what your company infrastructure is like. Do you have a board? Do you have principals? Kind of like you have employees? We want to get a basic overview and an idea. So we get an overview of your people structure, and your technology structure, just the high level overview. And then we come back and we lay all of that out after we've looked at it, and we sit down with you and say, here's the gaps that we found. Here's our suggestions for how we could tighten all of it up and move forward. And usually we'll try and give you a couple of options. Like there's always going to be the perfect one, and that one might be expensive or it might not be. And then there's always the one that will be just perfect. And then there's kind of the lower level one that'll get you compliant, but you're going to want to upgrade it later. So we'll come in and do that overview and that analysis, and then we'll bring you back some recommendations. We will give you, we will work out with you a ransomware or an emergency response an emergency response protocol, so that what that question that we looked at in Zero Trust of what do you do next is answered. It's a standard operating procedure of here's what you do next. Everybody has a copy. We walk through it with you or with your team if you'd like and practice it. It's been breached. What do I do? Shut down the system, contact this person, do this, do this, do this. It's all there. You know who to contact, what happens next. And then the people in charge, the people that own the company, they know what happens next. So we come in and look at it, do our assessment, bring you our recommendations, and help you with that response plan. And then you have other options if you like. What we usually do, and we check your cybersecurity insurance for this, usually on cybersecurity insurance, any that I've seen, you require a consult like this, and they call it an audit. And then you require check-ins. Now, those check-ins could be quarterly, biannual. That depends on your plan. But that just means we come back in every 3 months or every 6 months and sit down with you and check for breaches, make sure everything's working okay for you, make sure that you've got a good response from your team and your people about what we've put in place. Because cyber insurance, it's really necessary these days, and to make yourself compliant with government regulations, it's really necessary. It will include the cybersecurity audit. It will require the check-ins. It will require security training and education for everyone in your company. And so we supply that as well. And it will usually require VPNs, firewalls, antivirus. They want to know that you've got those things in place. So that way you're covered. You've got an audit, you've got your check-ins, you've got the cybersecurity training for everyone in your company, and that's easily done. It's an email, comes once a week, 3 to 5 minutes, all recorded on a dashboard that you can so you can hand over all your stats to the insurance company, and we can do webinars or anything during the year if you want. And then we add in the VPN and the tools those things, they don't cost as much as people think, but they make sure that everything is compliant and they keep you safe.
Thank you, Kim. This has been very useful, and I'm sure once we share the recording also to the other participants who were not able to make it, they will find this very useful. Appreciate all the knowledge you have given. Do we have any questions from any of the participants here? Muhammad Raza is saying very informative. Thank you, Muhammad.
Thank you, Mohammed.
I had a question.
Yes.
I don't know if you mentioned about, but like I was wondering, like for small businesses, like how do you go about like approving softwares? I know most of these major software, they don't have any, they might have their own security in place to verify, but how do we go about, like if there's a software that you as a company want to install, like are there any principles to follow when vetting those software to be installed for security compliance?
Well, it's for security compliance. So you want to check your insurance. So you want to check your own cybersecurity insurance, the jurisdiction, the legals and the compliance for the jurisdiction that you're in, the country, the province, and any that you want to go to. So those ones become a little more different for everybody. But definitely, yes, if you are looking at a new software, the first thing I do is I want to go to their security policies. I want to go to their privacy policies. I want to know what all of those are. And usually I get in touch with this people that designed it because I want to know. But if you can't do that, then yes, the security policies, the privacy policies, and look at and be very familiar with the rules, governance, compliance for the region that you live in, for the sector that you're working in, if it's education, if it's healthcare. There's some very strict compliance that you need to work with. So you need to make sure that that software does all of it. And that's the kind of checklist that you need. And it's really going to be custom to where you are, what sector you're working in, and what you want to do with it. And then you have to go in and make sure you put a reminder in calendars to check that every 3 months, 6 months, whatever your the laws require from you, because companies change and they don't have to notify you all the time. Most of them will, but a lot of them will put a note right in the thing that says, hey, if we change our privacy policy, we're just telling you now we might do that, but we don't necessarily have to notify you. So you need to make sure that something hasn't gone drastically wrong that gets you in trouble when your information is going across borders. So I usually do that. We put something in, and just a quick check every 3 months or so just says, hey, did they make any changes? Does
Okay,
that kind
thank
of, does that help? Yeah.
Yeah, it does help. It's a great answer. I think so. Like as far as like cybersecurity, as you said, like you have to put a reminder for yourself, to make sure
You
that
do.
like you're in compliance yourself.
Yep. And you want to keep, I always say, keep up with what's going on, because you know that a company, well, people knew CyberStrike was breached as soon as it happened. But if you weren't affected, it's still something you need to know can happen. And a lot of those companies didn't have to go down. Some of them did. But you still need to know. So yeah, and we have a checklist that I can give to Sadiq too, that just goes through those basics, and you make sure that you've added on whatever you need to. It's not easy adding in new software. That's why consulting is so important, because now you have to also look at the interface between what you've already got and this new one, and decide if whatever API, whatever SDK, whatever you're using to bridge one to the other, does anything get violated in that process as well?
Cool. Thank you. We'll appreciate the checklist, and if possible, the presentation for today's training, we can get in a copy of it.
Yeah, I said, yeah, I think we'll have those. Sorry, excuse me.
Thank you.
I'm sharing an email address which everyone can communicate on. If should you have any further questions, or you have some interest in availing some cybersecurity services from Kim. So it's cybersecurity@mernaenterprise.ca. I'm just going to type it here in the chat. So feel free to reach out here, and I will be sending all the participants also a link to today's recording, as well as the presentation, as Kim mentioned. So Dave, you have any it's almost 3. It's 3 o'clock. So just if you'd like to say a few words, and we can end the meeting.
Yeah, so let's not make this be like a goodbye and we just forget about it, because as we all know, cybersecurity is something that's a continuous process. So let's continue the line of communication. So after this, just make sure that you're in close contact with Sadiq, so that you can, if you need something customized, Kim will be able to do that specifically for your need, or whatever you need. We can find a way, because there's a lot of people in the background that help this process as well.
And the more we get to know you, the more I know type of businesses you have, and the type of things you're interested in, then the presentations get much more targeted too, which is good for you.
Yes. Is there any other way of contacting you, Kim, in regards to maybe there's a like a blog, or like an email newsletter that our participants can subscribe to, so that they can?
I can do that. So there's one, that's my LinkedIn, and if they would like to, we do have a newsletter as well. So if you email me there, then I can send you that. And it's mostly the one that goes through. Oh, you're right. I must have made, oh, I didn't put .com in there. I'm sorry. There is, you're right. That can't be reached. All right. So I'm going to.
You talking the email? It says
No,
.ca.
it was LinkedIn. I didn't put
Yeah,
that.
I will,
so.
I'll re-enter the link. Yeah, no, not a problem.
Oh, there we go.
The W has the dot missing. I'll just get that corrected. No problem.
Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna go. I'm just trying to type it on the small screen. But LinkedIn is always good because the newsletter that comes through there is basically the newsletter that you would get on the other one. But we also have more targeted newsletters and things too. So if you're very interested in business or very interested in the security or very interested in technology, just send me an email with any questions you have, and then we'll point you in the right direction. And hopefully we do another webinar with Sadiq aimed at, very closely at the needs and questions that you have.
Well, thank you so much. Any last questions by anyone on?
So Rara said we're not reaching you on LinkedIn.
No, I think now Kim then reshared the link.
The
So I
link.
think
So
that's-
that hopefully
yeah.
that last link worked for you.
Yeah, it's all good now.
It's perfect now. Okay, good, good.
Okay, thank you everyone for participating in today's event. A really special appreciation to Kim for sharing her knowledge and presentation with everyone today. And Dave, thank you for hosting this meeting as well, along with myself. This has been amazing and we learned a lot. Thanks so much, and looking forward to again participating or hosting another event for everyone's benefit. Thank you.
Thank you. Be
Wonderful.
well.
Thank
Stay
you
awesome.
very much, Sadiq.
Thank you, Kim, for the presentation, and thank you to Sadiq for the organizing this. Very helpful.
Our pleasure.
Thank
And
you.
Sadiq has packages, so sometimes the best thing to do is kind of jump in and just do it all right the first time, and while you're learning and asking questions.
Awesome. Be well, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Have a great day. Ciao.
You guys want to stay